In the previous video, we added permalinks to the articles we see here without using any gems whatsoever. I made one change since then and nested these articles under categories. What I would like to do next is add permalinks to this model as well. So the URL for this article, given it's posted under politics, would look like this. Let's begin. Similar to how we handled articles, I'm going to add a permalink column to categories. Next, going to the article model, we need to extract the permalink code and share it between our two models. So I'll select all this and move it to a concern. Let's call it permalinkable. One change we'll need to make is replacing the reference to the article class with a call to self.class. And then we'll simply include the module we just created. However, include only copies in the instance methods, so let's make sure we pass in our class functions as well. By referencing active support concern, we'll get access to the included class method that gets executed when this module is inserted in our article class. That should be it. Now it's time to check that everything is still working. Okay, looks good to me. Let's add a spec for the categories permalink. I'll start by creating the file and check that creating a new record populates the permalink field. This is a rather broad unit test that does multiple things. It's not something you would normally want, but we have tested the permalinks more thoroughly in the article spec, so this acts like a check that the permalink code is being run. And if we run the specs, they fail. Let's fix this by including the concern inside the category model. If we run the specs again, undefined method title for category. This makes sense because, unlike articles, categories don't have a title but a name instead. Let's provide the name of the column we want to use with our permalinks for both of our models. I'll do this through a class accessor. This is actually part of active support, not the standard Ruby library, but it has some nice tricks as allowing a default. And given that I just provided one for the articles, we need to set the column name only in the category model. Back in the permalink module, this is where we read the value we want to convert to a permalink and also where our specs failed. I'll just rename it to column value. If we want to populate it with the title value, we would need to call attributes title, and of course for name it would be attributes name. Therefore, we'll just need to provide it the class variable we've just set. Let's also use fetch, so it raises an exception if the attribute value wasn't found. Back to the specs. They all pass. Great, let's try things out in the browser. We had the same error when working on the articles, haven't we? The category permalink is nil, so we'll need to set it. Let's open up a console and do just that. We could try to resave everything as last time. However, this won't work anymore because the permalink is set only when creating records. That is, unless we provide the regenerate permalink flag, just like we did for the checkbox. With this out of the way, let's see if the error was fixed. It certainly did. It's nice to see this working. Let's do one more thing. Considering that the articles are nested under categories, let's allow multiple articles with the same name as long as the category is different. Before adding the new spec, let's ensure that the existing specs won't break when we add the new feature. We'll need an actual category record to exist for our tests to work. With this in mind, I'll add this category to the article object we've been testing against. Now we need to ensure that our tests that check the permalink duplication use this category as well. With this out of the way, I'm going to copy the first spec that tests the duplication. Providing I'm passing a different category, its permalink should not be suffixed. Going back to the specs, the spec is failing, so let's fix it. This change must affect a single model, so I'm going to implement it similar to how we specify the title. If we look over the permalink generation method, we'll need to rewrite this query in such a way that it scopes the records using the class variable we've set. We could append a scope to it and filter entries where the column would be the permalink scope class variable, and we could fetch its value by looking up the attributes hash. This can be rewritten nicer using slice. When no class variable is provided, slice returns an empty hash. In such a case, this is equivalent to a scope that does not change the query. Therefore, no if statements are required. Nevertheless, this would be a rather lengthy line of code, so I'll extract it to a method named scoped permalinked entries. I think it's best to break it more in 2 lines. Let's try the specs and hope for the best. Awesome, they pass. To double check this is working, I'm going to create a post in, let's say, the opinion category. And then I will create another one having the same title and category. That's good so far. And if we create yet another post with the same name, but in a different category, this time around it should not be suffixed. The URL is good, but if we look closely, the categories don't match and the content is wrong, so we're actually fetching the wrong post. Before fixing it, I will replicate this issue through a test. Similar to when an article shouldn't be found with the wrong permalink, we should also check that the lookup fails when we're providing the wrong category. To do that, I'm creating another category and passing that in as an argument. We have replicated the issue. The articles are fetched through the setArticle method that we already looked at in the previous video. We'll just need to fetch the category by looking up its permalink, then use it in the article lookup. Going back to the test, the issue is fixed. If we refresh, the correct post is now fetched, and if we go to an earlier post, it's being also fetched without any issues. This is it. Thanks for watching.